Recently, there's been a lot of talk about the importance of each of our stories. What's your take on that?
Well, on the one hand, I think it's great. We all have stories. God's at work in our lives. He's accomplishing things. So I have no problem when people are talking about my life story and the story I want to write for myself. I think it's a great reminder that we are here for a reason and that we are making choices that relate to our stories. And wanting to honor God, hopefully, with our lives. On the other hand, I think there has been an overemphasis sometimes on our stories. Like, well, this happened to me, and I did this, and I made my life all about me sometimes instead of making it about the Lord. But also, there's an overblown sense of self-importance that you get sometimes, maybe even on social media, where I got to tell you about I did this and I was brushing my teeth and then I heard the sound of and he said, oh, we don't really care what was going on while you were brushing your teeth and this may be part of your story, but it's like a very unimportant part of your story and one that maybe the rest of us aren't interested in. But I think the other part of it is that some people are kind of making their story trump God's story, because you look at Scripture and here's this great unfolding drama of redemption. But it's not just a story. It is a story, the greatest story that has ever been told and that's ever happened. But it also, Scripture also includes lots of propositional truth. You know, this is true, this is false. You should do this, you should not do this. And so what happens is when the people start talking about the Bible as story, they start leaving out those do's and don'ts, you know, things like the Ten Commandments and the moral types of code. Well, God included that in His story. He didn't just limit it to these characters and these actions happening.
Absolutely.
And the other part of it is that He gave to His story an authority that our stories do not have. So when somebody tells a story of this experience they had, maybe they died and went to heaven and they saw this and they heard this, then they come back and then they tell their story and people believe it without measuring it up against Scripture. Well, God's story is inspired and the person may sincerely remember this happening to them, but maybe some of it could be affected by the medications and the drugs and the life-saving intervention of the CPR and the electrode paddles or whatever those are. Yeah, the whole trauma of the thing has maybe affected their memory of what they heard. And, you know, the Bible also teaches that there are invisible beings that are unrighteous, that are evil. And it says that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So some people who have met this angel of light in the other world that has told them great things like, don't worry about it, we're all saved, everybody's going to heaven, don't sweat it. Well, who likely was that saying those things?
Yeah, it's an extremely dangerous lie that people can believe when they submit their own selves to this idea that a subjective truth is greater than the objective truth as revealed to us.
Exactly. Well said.